translation. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start the press conference of Three Seas Summit. And please welcome on the stage three presidents. The President of Latvia, Egils Levits, the President of Romania, Klaus Johannis, the President of Poland, Andrzej Duda. Welcome you all in Riga, by the Baltic Sea in Northern Europe. Here we are at the 7th Three Seas Summit in Riga, talking about how to connect with southern of Europe. And I would like to give the floor to President of Latvia, Mr. Egils Levits.
Paldies.
Thank you. Today, I had the pleasure to welcome the heads of state to the 7th Three Seas Initiative Summit, which takes place along with the 4th Business Forum. Three Seas Initiative was designed to enhance connectivity between the Adriatic, Black Sea and Baltic Sea, between 12 European Union member states that created this platform as a political, but more importantly, commercial platform. Politically inspired and commercially driven is the slogan is in English. Primarily, the platform is again focused on enhancing connectivity in this region of Europe, which is also one of the European growth regions, because in our region, the economy is growing faster in the long run compared to the rest of Europe, and we would like to support further growth by cooperating in three main areas: energy, transport, and digital connections. More recently, energy. In recent months, following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, energy security, energy independence has come to the fore of our political agenda here in the 12 participating countries as well as Europe as a whole. So the main purpose of this platform is to promote cohesion between the countries in the region and build connections or boost connectivity in these three areas. We, of course, also talked about Ukraine, which is again at the fore of the political agendas across Europe. We came to a rather unanimous conclusion that we will stand with Ukraine. We do stand with Ukraine and will support Ukraine's fight for its territorial integrity, sovereignty, and freedom. Ukraine is a democratic state in Europe, and Ukraine is currently fighting for values that we also call our own. Europe is not complete without Europe. Europe is not complete without Ukraine, and that is why we firmly support the granting of the candidate country status to Ukraine, and European Council will decide that next week. We also talked about fostering European integration of Ukraine also through our platform, through C3Cs initiatives, which again brings together 12 EU member states. And today we also decided to invite Ukraine to participate in all projects implemented in scope of the 3Cs initiative. So we believe that Ukraine should be given candidate country status for the European Union, and we also decided to involve it closer in our 3Cs cooperation. And also the representative of the United States underlined today that US will also provide significant funding into the 3Cs investment fund, and later on during the business forum, this decision will also be explained in greater detail by the representative of the United States. And we highly welcome a closer engagement of US with this region, with this platform, which shows its continued commitment to this region and desire to strengthen the transatlantic bond for the benefit of the European Union, 12 participating states, and the United States. Japan and the United Kingdom are also interested in our platform, and these countries also took part remotely in our today's summit. Let me conclude here and turn the floor to the Polish President Andrzej Duda, who 6 years ago was one of the founders of this platform. Please, the floor is yours.
Szanowni
Distinguished presidents, dear friends, dear Egils, dear host of our summit, thank you very much. To you, to the President of Latvia, thank you, Egils Levits, for inviting us to this summit of the presidents of the 3Cs states here to Riga, to Latvia. Thank you that 1 year ago you decided to organize this summit. Thank you that we can come here together today and discuss all the topics so important to all of us. 1 year ago, none of us had expected that we would have to discuss in such challenging circumstances. None of us had expected back then how clear we would be able to see after 1 year how important and how sensible it was to take in 2015, many years ago, this topic, to start this topic, to create bonds of strategic character, of transport character, but first and foremost, how important it would be to build the spheres of security in this part of Europe. I'm not speaking about military security, because NATO is there to care for military security. All of us are members of NATO. But I'm speaking about other dimensions of security, energy security, transportation and connectivity security, and also cyber security. All of these are areas in which very often our activities have not been compatible. Until that moment, in the past, we had not developed together in those areas. We started cooperation on the 3Cs level in 2015, and the goal of that cooperation is to make this development unified, coherent. But first and foremost, our goal is that all our countries, who are also countries, member states of the European Union, can even faster progress on the path to create European cohesion, to develop our part of Europe, so that the development of our part of Europe in terms of infrastructure, in terms of connectivity, is the same as this level in Western Europe as soon as possible. But as I said, none of us had expected that the most difficult challenges connected with the drama of the war, unfortunately, would come so fast to our part of Europe. Today, most of our discussion was dedicated, of course, to the situation in Ukraine and our situation and our response to what is happening in Ukraine, Russian aggression of Ukraine, this totally unjustified aggression which is developing in Ukraine today, what impact it has on the security of our part of Europe, on the security of our people, of our societies. We were discussing what we should be doing in this situation. We do not have any doubt whatsoever that further strengthening of infrastructure connections between our country, for example, energy connections, such as gas connections, interconnections, which we are establishing, also in terms of electricity, the efforts aimed at synchronization of our grids, these are our priorities, and we have to implement them. What is of crucial importance, and it was stressed during our meeting today in several interventions, are the road and rail connections, those which facilitate the transportation, which facilitate our movement, and in effect, if it is necessary to facilitate the movement of soldiers, of military infrastructure, which is moving among our countries today, which we are seeing also on our roads in many cases. This is the reality in which we are living today, all the 3Cs countries. But of course, we also discussed Ukraine, as it was just mentioned by President Levits. A very important question that was raised today, actually in all interventions, was the granting to Ukraine the candidate status to the European Union. Of course, this is not happening here today among us. This is happening within the European Council. The European Council is going to take this week, I hope, the decision on this one. The European Council will meet at the end of this week. But we reiterated during our meeting today that all of us, and 4 of us, have got a direct border with Ukraine. So we stressed that all of us support granting the candidate status to Ukraine, and we wanted to reflect this support in the conclusions of our meeting today. Even more so that all of us listened to the statement by the President of Ukraine, Mr. Volodymyr Zelensky. And before I also talked personally to President Volodymyr Zelensky, we talked on the phone. I consulted with him what it means that Ukraine would like to join the 3Cs initiative. Of course, as a rule, the member states of the 3Cs initiative are the countries which are members of the European Union. This is what we adopted right from the start. This was also the assumption. of our cooperation and goals within the Three Seas Initiative. But we also have got strategic partners of the Three Seas, which are much better developed than most of the Three Seas countries. Those partners, in terms of infrastructure development, are a role model, and they are at the vanguard, both in Europe but also on the global scale. That is why we have got Germany as a strategic partner of the Three Seas Initiative, probably the best country developed in Europe in terms of infrastructure. That is why another strategic partner of the Three Seas Initiative is the United States of America. Therefore, another strategic partner to the Three Seas countries is also the European Commission, which takes patronage, so to speak, over our activities within the European Union. We are the countries who create this Central European community within the European Union here. But we also have with us the United Kingdom, who is our partner, Japan as well. And today we had an opportunity to listen to the statements by our strategic partners. But we also discussed Ukraine. We are firmly convinced, we do not have any doubt whatsoever, that this candidate status will be granted to Ukraine in the nearest time. For this reason, we decided to set up a special, dedicated new kind of partnership with the Three Seas. So next to a strategic partnership, which has got its special character, we also decided to set up a participating partnership. This is a new kind of partnership which is not reserved only to Ukraine. Today we granted this status to Ukraine, and this is reflected in our joint declaration that we adopted at the end of our meeting. But we assume that the same kind of partnership can also be granted to those countries which are located in Central Europe and which are not no member states of the European Union as for today, but who are aspiring to the European Union. So if they apply for EU candidate status, if they will be in the process of being granted that status, they will also be able to apply for being granted this special partnership status within the Three Seas Initiative. Of course, if they want to cooperate with the Three Seas, of course, if they want to participate in the Three Seas. I'm mentioning this today because today we heard an appeal and a kind of application from the president of Slovenia, Mr. Borut Pahor. So Mr. Borut Pahor wanted us to support the efforts of Bosnia and Herzegovina in receiving an EU member state status, candidate status. So we do support the status for Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we gave a positive response to President Borut Pahor's appeal. Of course, it is up to the European Council to decide, but if Bosnia and Herzegovina in the future wants to cooperate with the Three Seas countries, then of course we are going to consider this issue among ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, Three Seas today brings together more than 110 million inhabitants of the European Union, citizens of the European Union. I hope that in the future we will have more inhabitants and members of the Three Seas Initiative and European Union when the process of accepting Ukraine will end in full membership for Ukraine. But today the most important thing is that we are a unity. We want to implement joint projects. To say even more, we want to develop those common projects. If Ukraine is interested in Via Carpathia, going also to Ukraine, then as Three Sea member countries, together with Ukraine, as a partnership country, we are going to implement those projects together. If Ukraine wants to be linked with modern railways, high-speed railways, which will enable to connect Kiev with other capitals of the Three Seas. If there is such an interest from Ukraine, we are going to consider such projects too, and I hope that we will be implementing them in the future. I do hope that by the same token, we will increase the number of European countries connected by joint common ideas. First and foremost, by the idea of a true, well-functioning democracy and respect for the norms of international law. This is something that we stressed resolutely today. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I would like to thank the presidents of Latvia, Egils Levits, for organizing our meeting today. I am glad that we are demonstrating that our community is alive. Today, there is still a business meeting ahead of us, an economic meeting, where we are going to discuss about cooperation in this respect as well. And I'm delighted that our activities and the development of cooperation among the 3C states is taking new forms, also in terms of regional cooperation, business-oriented cooperation, in many different forms, at many different levels, because this is the kind of development that we really need in our part of Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear President. And now it's my honor to give the floor to President of Romania, Klaus Iohannis. The floor is yours.
President Levits, President Duda, ladies and gentlemen, I was honored to participate in the 7th summit of the 3Cs initiative. I particularly congratulate President Levits for the successful organization of this event. We met today at a key moment for the European continent, as well as for the entire region of the 3Cs, in the context of the premeditated, unjustified, unprovoked, and illegal aggression of the Russian Federation in Ukraine. In this complex context, the stakes of today's summit go beyond our central objective of developing the region by better interconnecting our economies. Thus, it reflects our unity in the strong reaffirmation of our values and common interests. In 2018, we successfully organized in Bucharest the summit and the business forum, and 5 years later, in 2023, Romania will be again hosting this important event. This decision, which we announced today in the plenary of our meeting, reconfirms the major importance given by Romania to this regional cooperation format. Taking over the mandate to organize next year's initiative events brings once again the decision-making center of the initiative to the Black Sea. Today, we looked at how the initiative should position itself in the current European security context. In particular, the contribution it can bring through the implementation of strategic interconnection projects in the 3 core areas: transport, energy, digital. Thus, it is important to recalibrate our multidimensional response while focusing on achieving the core objectives of the initiative. At the opening of the summit, we welcomed President Zelensky's intervention, who addressed the leaders of the 3Cs initiative with a clear message. Ukraine needs the support of the initiative and the participating states. In this context, I reiterated the support that Romania gives to Ukraine and its citizens on multiple levels, both through bilateral measures as well as in the multilateral framework, aspects that I have directly conveyed to President Zelensky on the occasion of my visit last week in Kiev with President Macron, Chancellor Scholz, and Prime Minister Draghi. As the host country of the next summit and of the business forum, Romania will explore all possibilities through which the initiative can help Ukraine. In particular, we will focus on interconnection projects in which Ukraine could participate as a partner of the initiative. At the same time, Romania is convinced that also the Republic of Moldova and Georgia, which like Ukraine, are on the same path towards the European Union must receive the same support from us because their resilience is hardly tested in these moments. In preparation of next year's summit, Romania will continue to support the strengthening of the initiative. We will thus work to strengthen its instruments, the Business Forum, the Investment Fund, and the other formats successfully developed so far. We will encourage new investments of the fund. From the perspective of Romania's interests, it is encouraging that recently, in the sidelines of the Davos Economic Forum, an agreement was signed between the Romanian company Transgaz and the initiative's investment fund aimed at developing natural gas infrastructure and connectivity with the integration of hydrogen transport in Romania, the value of the projects being estimated at 626 million euros. Two other projects, which are priorities for Romania, are the Rail to Sea and Via Carpathia initiatives, whose implementation will improve our connections as well as military mobility and resilience in the field of infrastructure in the region, which proved to be essential in the current geopolitical context. The success of our initiative is measured in the success of our strategic interconnection projects. At the same time, we will be guided in our actions by a clear principle. Together, we are stronger. From this perspective, we welcome the strong and clearly expressed commitment of our partners, the United States, Germany, and the European Commission, which will contribute to reaching the core objectives of the initiative. During Romania's new mandate at the leadership of the initiative, we will act in full coordination with the strategic agenda of the European Union, as well as in the direction of strengthening the transatlantic partnership. We will also make every effort to attract international financial organizations and the international private sector in the achievement of the initiative goals. At the same time, we welcome the interest in the initiative shown by the United Kingdom and Japan. In the coming year, we intend to develop the dialogue with these countries in order to identify the concrete possibilities for cooperation. Through all these actions, Romania will continue to contribute to reducing development gaps and strengthening resilience in the Three Seas region for the benefit of the prosperity of our citizens, also as a concrete response to today's challenges at our borders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. And now I open the floor for media questions. Please raise your hands. I think we have a question from Latvian television.
Labdien, Ines Strāle.
Good afternoon, Ines Strāle from Latvian television. I would like to ask my question or address it to the Polish President Andrzej Duda. You as one of the countries which neighbors with Ukraine, which of these Three Seas initiative projects is most urgent or should be implemented immediately to help Ukraine in current situation when Russia is waging aggression against it? Which of the projects of this initiative should be implemented immediately to help Ukraine?
That is not such a simple question because none of these projects, of the big infrastructure projects which are being implemented right now or which are planned, is a project which could be implemented right away, immediately. What Ukraine needs immediately is political support. What Ukraine immediately needs is acceptance. I have already said that this is a very important psychological factor in terms of the attitude, in terms of strengthening Ukrainians, the defenders of Ukraine, strengthening their belief that, simply said, they are part of the West, they are part of this Europe, which is the European Union, because it accepts them. And today we are this part. Also, the Three Seas is opening its arms for Ukraine. Today we can see that the Ukrainians are fighting. They are shedding their blood in order not to become part of the Ruski Mir, which means that they want to be a part of the West, because there is nothing in between. And history is demonstrating this to us in a very clear way. So this opening to Ukraine is crucially important. Today, I indeed talked to President Volodymyr Zelensky briefly before our meeting here, before the Three Seas Summit, and we discussed the great infrastructure projects, among others, about Via Carpathia. If you're asking me what is needed, for sure, good transportation links are needed. For sure, good ways, good roads are necessary, which are going to connect Ukraine with Northern European countries, which will give to Ukraine also the way out to the West, which will allow Ukraine to connect and to communicate in this area in which we are active as Three Seas. For sure, today, Ukrainian authorities are thinking very seriously about establishing fast, high-speed rails, for instance, between Kiev and Warsaw, which perhaps will run through the city of Lviv. We are holding intensive talks on this one. But another thing is the establishment of gas connections, which would enable Ukraine to use alternative sources of gas. We know that Ukraine is the first state which had a problem related to gas with Russia. Actually, it was vis-à-vis Ukraine, which Russia applied gas blackmail for the first time. And to us, to the countries of Central Europe, this was the first lesson. We learned that we could become a victim of the Russian hegemony on the energy market. So also these are important elements in building Ukraine's independence, its security, and its cooperation with Central Europe, with Western Europe, and not with the East. So the question of gas interconnectors is very important, and also other energy connections. And today we are having very intensive talks about this with Ukraine, both concerning private sector and state-level sector. These are, I believe, the most crucial issues, and they are urgent, of course. But let us bear in mind that most often these are very big and very serious infrastructure investments, which will require years and long-term planning processes, preparation, and then the implementation phase. Yes, but we firmly believe that this is the future.
Now we have a question from Euronews Romania.
Hello, Cristian Citre from Euronews Romania. A question for the three presidents. It was said before, and you said in your declarations, about this need of urgenting the major projects of the Three Seas initiative. The question would be as it follows. Because they develop, and as Mr. President Duda said, it takes years, a long time to do such projects. Is there a discussion regarding the acceleration of those projects? Because time is not waiting for us.
Mulțumesc pentru întrebare.
Thank you for the question. No, we didn't talk about accelerating, but we need to understand together how those projects are realized. Those are infrastructural projects where you have multiple partners. This is not a national project. In Romania, for instance, we have the two big projects which are interesting for us and for Poland and for other partners, Via Carpathia and Rail to Sea. We cannot think that we will build a new highway from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea. This connection will have some segments of express or highway roads that already exists, and we will just connect them. The same is valid for the railway. The transport ministries in our countries are negotiating already for years, and as we do year by year new segments of roads and railways, the same thing happens in Poland and in Lithuania. But to have finalized connection, of course, we need more time. Now, you're speaking about acceleration. It can happen nationally. And for instance, after finishing the summit today, I will have a meeting with the Prime Minister and probably with the ministries to see how we in Romania can accelerate the implementation of those projects. Parallelly, of course, we'll start our contacts with Ukraine to see which one of those existing projects, because you remember that in 2018 in Bucharest, we had a list of priority projects which can be connected with Ukraine and which are the new projects. And I'm convinced that before next year, our meeting in Bucharest, we'll have a lot more data, and we will know then how we can approach those new projects and how can we accelerate the projects which are already on our list and which are already being realized.
If you allow me, Mr. President, from the Polish perspective, let me add a couple of words. First of all, I would say, as far as Via Carpathia is concerned, which has just been mentioned by President Klaus Iohannis, I have this sense that we cannot accelerate this project more than we have so far in Poland, because recently we have opened another big section of this road between the city of Rzeszów and the city of Lublin in Poland. Right now, this road is fully operational. It is ready. We are constructing right now the section between the city of Rzeszów and the border with Slovakia. We have with us today the Minister of Infrastructure in the Polish government, Mr. Adamczyk is here. He is sitting among you. And together with the Minister of Infrastructure, we have been discussing very intensively with our colleagues from Slovakia last year, and also we are continuing these talks this year, because indeed we are conducting very intensive construction works, and we would like to make sure that also these actions, these works start in Slovakia as soon as possible. Having said that, we are delighted that the Slovakian government has declared its cooperation, and we do hope that thanks to this connection will be complete towards Hungary in the direction. So we're working on this one. On gas issues, let me say the following. Those works were going on. No matter if we were afraid of the military conflict in Ukraine, that it could break out or not, so irrespective of this fear, those works were going on. In the first day of May, early in May, we were able to open the gas interconnection between Poland and Lithuania. And right now, in a couple of days' time, we're going to open an interconnection between Poland and Slovakia, which will enable us to transfer gas from Poland to Ukraine through Slovakia. In other words, there are a lot of works which are in the pipeline right now, and our meetings, we have actually established this Three Seas platform, and thanks to the meetings taking place every year, thanks to this cooperation being so intensive on the political level, it translates in a very simple way also on the practical implementation of the infrastructure projects. So we can say that all of these projects are in the pipeline, they're going on. For sure, there are some places where they could be accelerated, but please believe me, they are going on. We are not only meeting and holding political talks, no. These talks are translated into practical actions on the ground, so to say.
The main purpose of these infrastructure projects is to focus or implement these projects as national projects. However, to focus on their integratability, if you will. For example, for the Baltic countries, we have Rail Baltica connecting 3 Baltic countries with Poland and further on to other countries of the Three Seas initiative and the rest of Europe. And my colleague, Andrzej Duda, already mentioned the new gas interconnection between Poland and Lithuania. And we both took part in its opening ceremony in Lithuania, but this gas interconnection extends further to Latvia and Estonia through our interconnections between respective countries, and our government is currently negotiating connections and further expansion of gas market by building a new LNG terminal, which will be operational, which will give benefits not only to Latvia but also to all 3 Baltic countries. And this is how our national projects contribute to the implementation of connectivity projects between all countries. And on side, or in addition to that, we also have other projects that will be funded from the investment fund to reinforce our connectivity. We have, again, big infrastructure projects that are implemented by nations in order to contribute to the overall connectivity in the region.
From TV Poland.
Dzień dobry, Żaklina Skowrońska, Telewizja Polska.
Good afternoon, Żaklina Skowrońska, Polish television. My question is directed to President Duda, and I would like to make a connection to your last meeting in Davos with the former Croatian President Kolinda Grabar-Kitarović, with whom you co-founded the Three Seas Initiative. You mentioned back then the conversation of the former President of Croatia with Vladimir Putin, and you stressed that for Vladimir Putin, the biggest bone of contention in these talks was not the enlargement of NATO, but the question of construction of an LNG terminal on the island of Kirk and diversification of supplies by Croatia. What does it tell you, Mr. President? And shouldn't this energy cooperation, shouldn't it be the right path to develop the Three Seas Initiative, especially in the closest future, in the connection, in the context of the geopolitical situation? Madam, ladies and gentlemen, to be precise, Madam President Kolinda Grabar-Kitarović mentioned her conversation with Vladimir Putin, during which, as she stressed, Vladimir Putin actually did not mention the membership of Croatia in NATO, but he was very negative about Croatia's plans to place this floating terminal on the island of Kirk. That terminal was able to deliver LNG gas to Croatia and also to supply other countries. And Madam President mentioned that because precisely that LNG on the island of Kirk, which did not exist back then, was the first element about which we discussed. And this was the founding project of the Three Seas, so to speak, because we in Poland were preparing back then to open our Polish LNG terminal in the city of Świnoujście, which at that time had been built for a couple of years, and the construction finished in 2016. Then it was opened. It is functional today. We are expanding it. We're increasing its capacity right now in Poland. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is no doubt whatsoever that when we look at the Russian energy offensive, which Russia has been implementing for the last 10 years in the European Union. So first, Russia constructed Nord Stream 1, then it followed with Nord Stream 2. If we look at all of this, we have no doubt whatsoever that Russia's goal was to dominate Europe from the energy perspective, to dominate the European Union energetically. Its goal was to monopolize the European Union's energy market, gas market. And by the same token, Russia wanted to create a very strong dependence between EU economies and the economy of Russia, to the extent that one could use gas blackmail and enforce certain solutions. I think nobody has got any doubts about those aims today. So all kinds of LNG terminals which enable to take gas, to buy gas from any direction from which it can be delivered, be it the United States of America, be it the Middle East, be it Far East, wherever you can get LNG gas from. That was contrary to the Russian plans, of course. So one can say that there was the first sign which showed in a clear way what Russian intentions were. Luckily, we did not care with those Russian reservations back then, and we went ahead with our plans. We implemented those plans, and today you can see with the naked eye how necessary it was. Let me stress that recently Russia cut off direct gas deliveries to Poland, contrary to the still theoretically binding contract that we have between Poland and Russia. We were supposed to get gas from Russia till the end of this year, but Russia stopped those deliveries, demanding, contrary to the contract, that Poland was supposed to pay in rubles. We did not agree to that because it runs contrary to the contract. So then Russia violated the contract once again. It stopped gas deliveries. But then, thanks to our LNG terminal in Świnoujście, thanks to the interconnections that we had built before, our gas security was upheld, and we have got gas both for our industry. It is also available for Polish households. So as you can see, this energy security can successfully be constructed, provided that you act together, as we are acting together in Europe right now. But let me say, fortunately, we looked prospectively into the future, and the 3 Cs is a very important element in building energy security of our region and of the entire European Union.
Thank you, Mr. President. And now, as we have heard, the 8th 3 Seas Summit will take place in Romania. And that is why I would like now to ask the President of Latvia and the President of Romania to stand by the 3 Seas flag for the official handover moment. So the initiative now goes from Riga to Bucharest, from Latvia to Romania, from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, here in Europe. And I would like to thank all 3 presidents, the President of Latvia, the President of Romania, and the President of Poland for taking this stage for the press conference. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.